15.7 trillion naira by the end of December 2019.
Senior Democrats have responded by accusing him of committing a gross offense.
The All Progressives Congress has vowed to punish the Ogun State Governor, Ibikule Amosu.
Welcome to Celebration Television News Desk. I am Bellis Quetta. Thanks for joining us today. Now the news making the rounds. Buhari orders sanctions for inbound passengers evading COVID-19 test. U.S.-Israeli delegation signed deals with Morocco marking normalization. In Israel election, new poll due after unity government crumbles. Debt servicing hindering Nigeria's economic growth efforts, says the NECA. And COVID-19 LMC seeks PTF's clarification over league kickoff. Stay with us as the details of that news come after the break. Welcome. Buhari orders sanctions for inbound passengers evading COVID-19 test. The President Muhammadu Buhari extends the mandate of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, till the end of March 2021. Buhari announced the extension at a meeting he had with members of the task force, during which they presented their end-of-year reports to him at the presidential villa in Abuja. President Buhari attributes the extension to the second wave of the virus. He also directed the PTF and the Nigerian Immigration Service to ensure that all inbound passengers who failed to show up for the post-arrival COVID-19 test were sanctioned within the ambit of the law. And the President said he has authorized the following measures for implementation: the extension of the mandate of the PTF for a further period till the end of March 2021, bearing in mind the new surge in the number of cases and the bid for vaccines. And that the PTF should coordinate the process for planning and strategy for accessing, delivery and administration of the vaccine using the existing health structures that have worked in the past in vaccine administration, and authorized the PTF to engage with the states for them to assume full ownership of this stage of the response by deploying legal structure and resources, including enforcement, to manage the pandemic within their jurisdictions. Details of the advisory measures have already been announced. And moving forward, Senate plans laws for hunters to tackle bandits and kidnappers. The Senate has started a legislative process to enact a law that will legalize the activities of various hunter groups in Nigeria. And the proposed legislation will put to rest the notion that the group lacked the constitutional powers. And tagged the Nigerian Hunters Council of Nigeria Bill 2020, the proposed law, which has passed second reading, was sponsored by Senator Biodun Olujimi. The senator said that the law, when enacted, would also empower the hunters to provide community policing, maintain law and order, and offer community service for Nigerians. And she added that the proposed legislation would ensure that they work with other security agencies to bring stability to Nigerian security challenges. And the lawmaker added that the proposed law will make the hunters work in synergy with other security agencies to bring stability, security, and peace of mind to the country. And she said efficient policing requires information sharing between the civil populace and the security agencies. That is why it is said that security is everybody's business. And in another development, security agents to enforce civil servants stay-at-home order. The federal government has directed security agents manning the gates to governments or offices to ensure that only civil servants on grade level 12 and above and are granted access to the premises from today, Wednesday, 23rd December 2020. And this is in compliance with the directive of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 that officers on grade levels 12 and below should stay away from work for a period of 5 weeks as part of measures to curtail further spread of the virus. And the head of the civil service of the Federation, Folashade Yemi, gave the directive to the security men in circular dates December 22nd, 2020. The circular titled Second Wave of COVID-19 Stay at Home Directive to Grade Level 12 Officers. In the circular addressed to heads of government agencies, Yemi added, and she asked the security personnel to check workers' identity cards to ensure that only those expected at work gain access. And the circular states that following the president's approval of recommendations of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in the light of the second wave of the infections in Nigeria, officers on grade levels 12 and below are hereby directed to stay at home for a period of 5 weeks effective from today, December 23rd, 2020, and awaits further directives. And now moving on to news from around Africa, U.S.-Israeli delegation signs deals in Morocco marking normalization. A U.S.-Israeli delegation signed agreements with Morocco in Rabat, cementing a Washington-sponsored normalization of relations between the Jewish state and the North African country. And the visiting delegation, led by Jared Kushner, son-in-law or an advisor to outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, security advisor May Ben Shabbat, arrived in Rabat from Tel Aviv on a first direct commercial flight between Israel and Morocco. And less than 2 weeks ago, Morocco became the third Arab state this year after the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain to normalize ties with Israel under U.S. brokered deals, while Sudan has pledged to follow suit. The U.S.-Israeli delegation met King Mohammed VI at the Royal Palace before the signing of the tripartite declaration lauding Trump's December 10 decision to recognize Morocco's sovereignty over the disputed region of West Sahara, widely read as a quid pro quo for Rabat's simultaneous pledge to restore ties with Israel. And the declaration included a commitment to immediately resume full official contact between Israeli and Moroccan counterparts, with all parties agreeing to fully implement the sides of the bargain before the end of January. And appearing alongside Morocco's foreign minister Nasser Bourita, Kushner said at an evening press conference that the visit had been enormously productive so far. Both Kushner and Ben Shabbat were received at the airport by Moroccan officials, albeit in a low-key welcome far from the pomp of the delegation's departure from Israel. And more news from around Africa, Central African Republic rebels take a key city as fighting escalates. Rebels in the Central African Republic seized the key city of Bambari, the local mayor said, in a sharp escalation of violence ahead of the presidential and parliamentary election on December 27. Government and the United Nations source also confirmed the fall of Bambari. And the news sent some shock waves in Bangui, where the government of President Faustin Archange Touadéra has been trying to build support for the vote. And the armed groups that are there bothering everyone it creates tension and the fears and there is fear, and it reigns in the hearts of people in the capital. And President Touadéra said the vote will go ahead as planned, urging people to ignore reports of a rebel advance. Former President Francois Bozize of backing a new rebel movement keen on overthrowing the government, and Bozize's presidential bid was rejected by the country's constitutional court, citing UN sanctions. And we'll go on a short break. When we come back, we get news from around the Middle East.
Welcome to News Desk on Celebration TV. I am Comfort James.
And I'm Femi Marks.
And the news making the rounds.
Please stay with us as we bring you details. Watch robust, objective, analytical, informative, educative, entertaining and inspiring news on Celebration TV News Desk. Every weekday, 11 a.m. GMT +1. That is 11 a.m. GMT +1 on Mondays through Fridays.
A season of love embedded in glamour. A precious gift which brought us peace. It's a sound of joy and melodies from the heavenly realm. Christmas Carol service with Apostle Johnson and Dr. Lizzie Solomon.
My lips will glorify you.
Live at the International Worship Center on Mega Fire Ministries, Kilometer 132, Benin Okene Abuja Expressway, Auchi, Edo State, Nigeria. 24th December 2020, 3 p.m. From. For inquiries, please call. Come, let's marry together.
Welcome back. Now news from around the Middle East. The Israeli election, new poll due after unity government crumbles. Israel is to hold its fourth election in 2 years after the two main parties in its unity government failed to meet a deadline in a row over state budgets. Voters will return to the polls in March, just 12 months after the last round. Two previous elections were inconclusive, resulting in a rare government of national unity. Netanyahu, on the trial for alleged corruption, is hoping to return to office for a sixth time. He denies the criminal charges against him, dismissing them as politically motivated. In Israel's parliament, the Knesset was automatically dissolved as required by law after a deadline to pass the 2020 state budget expired. An 11-hour attempt to avoid this failed after a bill to allow more time was voted down against expectations. And more updates from the United States of America. Trump urges Congress to amend wasteful coronavirus aid bill. U.S. President Donald Trump urges Congress to amend a $900 billion coronavirus relief bill to more than triple its stimulus payment to Americans. In a video message posted on Twitter, he said the package really is a disgrace full of wasteful items. He said it's called the COVID relief bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. The $900 billion bill includes one of $600 payments to most Americans, but Mr. Trump said the figures should be $2,000. And the Republican president, who leaves office on 20th of January, had been expected to sign the sprawling legislation into law following its passage through Congress on Monday night. And right now on business news, debt servicing hindering Nigerians' economic growth efforts, says the NECA. And the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association warns that the group in Nigeria's external debt is jeopardizing the economic growth efforts of the federal government. And the association raised this concern in a statement titled "Salvaging the Nigerian Economy from Total Collapse: A Call for Urgent Action." The Director General of the NECA, Dr. Timothy Olawale, in a statement noted that the Nigerian's debt servicing was acting funds needed for investment and infrastructural development. He said the revised 2020 budget showed that the country spent 3 trillion naira on debt servicing, which accounted for 27% of the total expenditure and 35.6% of the revenue. And with all the borrowings, there seemed to be insignificant impact in some economic objectives, as there is still widespread unemployment, high poverty level, poor infrastructural development, and poor health indicators, he said. The NECA Director General said analysis of debt servicing provisions to revenue projections in Nigeria's annual budget over a 5-year period revealed that in 2016, 38.34% of the year's budget was earmarked for debt servicing. And still from the world of business, SIM and NIN linkage applicants stranded as the NIMC website crashes. Large crowd thronging the web portal of the National Identity Management Commission for the process of obtaining their national identity number led to the crash of the portal on Monday. And many people who wanted to print the enrollment form, which is a major requirement for registering for the national identity number, were unable to do so and got stranded. And checks showed that the www.nimc.gov.ng displayed error messages, and the Commission's reopened its enrollment centers for the NIN registration after they were shut by the previous day. It was observed that only applicants with completed application forms were allowed into the premises of the Commission in Lagos after they had received tally numbers earlier in the day. And in Abuja, residents of the Federal Capital Territory besieged the NIMC's registration center in their desperate bid to obtain the national identity number. And this was despite the extension of deadline for the linkage of SIM cards to the NIN. The federal government had declared on December 15, 2020 that after December 30, 2020, all SIMs that were not registered with valid NINs on the network of telecommunication companies will be blocked. And we'll go on another short break. When we come back, we get news from the world of sports. Stay with us.
Exceptional, extraordinary, superlative, the big night. Intercontinental Christmas Fire and Miracle Night with Apostle Johnson and Dr. Lizzie Suleiman. Guess what? Our Consular Nicholas Walter, the exclusive man, will be right there to bring you highlights of our great event as it unveils Please be with us. Happening on the 25th December 2020 at the International Worship Center, Omega Fire Ministries, Kilometer 132 Benin Kenya Abuja Expressway, Auchi, Edo State, Nigeria. The time is 10 p.m. GMT+1. Intercontinental Firing Miracle Night with Apostle Johnson and Dr. Lizzie Suleiman this Christmas.
Welcome back. Now, news from the world of sports. COVID-19 LMC seeks PTF's clarification over league kickoff. League Management Company Chairman Shehu Diko disclosed that the body will meet with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for clarifications on the new guidelines and how it might affect the start of the 2020-2021 league season. The Sports Minister Sunday Dare and the LMC earlier confirmed December 27 as a resumption date for the Nigeria Professional Football League, which had been suspended since March due to the outbreak of COVID-19. But with the increase of new cases of the virus due to a global second wave, the PTF on Monday outlined new COVID-19 protocols. PTF Chairman Boss Mustafa said the body issued the directive to restrict all informal and formal festivity events, including weddings, conferences, congresses, office parties, concerts, seminars, sporting activities. End-of-year events shall be restricted to not more than 50 persons. Where more than 50 persons are attending any such events, the gathering should be held outdoors only. And meanwhile, some NPFL clubs said that they were not caught unaware by the decision to start the season next weekend with just over a week notice. And some of the NPLF clubs officials said since the PTF okayed the return of sports in October, they had been training and playing friendly matches, awaiting when the LMC will announce the start of the new season. And lastly, on our news desk and from other sports stories, Makinde says we will produce our own Federer and Nadals. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde said his administration will develop sports and produce talents across different sports fields. Makinde said this at the Ibadan Recreational Club, where he declared open the Governor Seyi Makinde tennis tournament organized by the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The governor said his administration would encourage the development of talents in tennis. He said he is very happy to see young talents in Oyo State, and they want to develop as many talents as possible and have their own Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and Kevin Anderson, who is about the highest ranked tennis players of the continent of Africa. And special assistant on sports to the governor Oluwatobi Oyewumi said the tournament was in commemoration of the long-standing history of investing and developing the capital of younger generations in the area of tennis. And the Commissioner for Youth and Sports, Sheun Fakorede, describes the event as epochal, noting that a lot of things had taken a new shape in the state since Makinde assumed office as governor, with sports development one of them. And that's the size of the news for us today on Celebration Television News Desk. If you're just joining us, here is a recap of the news making the headlines. Buhari orders sanctions for inbound passengers evading COVID-19 test. US-Israeli delegations signed deals in Morocco marking normalization. Israel election, new poll due after unity government crumbles. Debt servicing hindering Nigeria's economic growth efforts, says NECA. And on sports, COVID-19 LMC6 PTF's clarification over league kickoff. And today on our photo of the day, you can all see the picture on the screen, and it is just to ask you a question: how hard have you tried? So never give up, keep pushing forward. You would get there. Never stop making efforts. No matter what you do in life, never stop making efforts to attain success. And tell us your views and your opinions on that on our social media platforms. On Facebook, we are Celebration TV. On Instagram, we are My Celebration TV. On Twitter, it is at My Celebration TV. And on YouTube, it is Celebration TV. And don't you forget